Welcome to another episode of Demystifying Gay Porn. I am your host, IK Grande, and if you've watched porn in the past 12 years, I've definitely helped you get off. So if you've been following my Twitter page, I've been posting a whole bunch of top 10 lists of scenes that I've done for Dark Alley Rafael Club. The reason I'm doing so is because I think it's about time to put it to an end, put it to rest. However, you know, there's something to be said about my favorite scenes. So I did a top 10 interracial scenes that I've shot. I did a list of top 10 three-ways that I've shot. And then just this past week, I did a list of top 10 gangbangs that I shot. And that was really popular. I feel like everybody really does love gangbangs. The last list I want to do is the top 10 scenes, or my favorite top 10 scenes that I've directed ever with my time at Dark Alley and Rafael Club. I've looked at all of the stuff. I would have loved to have one top 10, but it was 12 years. It was a lot of time. There was a lot of scenes. And I didn't really realize how much of it there was. So I'd like to go ahead and read them off. And if you are very interested in watching the scenes that I'm describing, they will be on Twitter, or at least the trailers will. And if you want to watch them, go on Rafael Club or Dark Alley's page and give them a look. This list, like I said, is top 10 scenes that I love, that I think are the best with my time at Dark Alley and Rafael Club. You know, the reason why I made these lists, as I mentioned before, is after all these years, you know, I spent 12 years at the same company, and I was just pumping out scenes, and I wasn't able to take a minute and like see how people were responding to them. And then finally, when everything happened with Dark Alley and Rafael Club, I spent a lot of time on Twitter, and I noticed how many people were sharing and just enjoying all this stuff. And I was like, wow, that's kind of really cool. And then my porn persona, IK Grande, was never supposed to be a main draw, which is why I was always behind the scenes. I always wanted to make it about the porn that we were shooting, and not to be the main draw. But what are you going to do? And it's not to say like I was hiding or anything. I just think that directors and producers are secondary to the message or what you're trying to put out there, which is porn. Without further ado, before I start my list of top 10 scenes, the top 10 greatest IK Grande scenes on Rafael Club and Dark Alley, if you like this podcast, please sign up or click the subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Buzzsprout, which is our host, YouTube. Click the subscribe button on either of those or all of those, and that way we can continue doing what we're doing. Number 10 is Owen Hawk and Mason Wilder. And the reason why I chose this scene, I worked with Owen Hawk a lot, needless to say, and I shot a lot of his scenes. And the reason why this one I think was great was because we were trying to work with Mason Wilder for a long time. He was kind of a big deal. And he was going to do a crossover into bareback porn, which in 2009 was a taboo still. It was before, you know, Treasure Island was already doing it for 10 years. We had just started doing it in 2008. So we were like a year in, and all the other studios were still, you know, anti-bareback and how dare you and all this and blah, blah, blah. And now they're all making money off of it. So the reason why Mason Wilder was this scene in particular is we were trying to work with him. We had a European production that we were trying to do with him, and it kind of all fell apart. And then he came out as HIV positive, and he was on meds and did a scene with us, and it was kind of pretty cool. It was a really cool production. We shot it in New York City in our studio, and I think that with the backstory, but also what you see on camera, it's really real. It's raw. Like, these people really did want to work together, and I think it's captured pretty well on screen. Before we move on to number 9, I just wanted to give you a background story about my porn name. They always ask how you come up with a porn name. My porn name, if I had gone the traditional route, would have been Akira Jackson, or Wolf Jackson, actually, if it was my first pet name. And the street I grew up on. However, I really needed to look for a name when I started working there, so I can be credited as something. And my Brazilian friend decided on Chupa Me Pau, which means suck my dick in Portuguese. But I don't know. I wasn't really like set on it. And then I went out with a friend and his friend to G Lounge in the city back when it was called G Lounge. And I was telling him, I got this new job. It's really, really cool. It's in the porn industry, but I need a porn name. And he's like, well, how about Ike Grande? And I was like, I like that because I am Latino. And I thought that it would be really, really cool. It's a play on words. If you don't know what it means, it's, oh, that's big, basically. It's not IQ Grande, Hans Berlin. It's, oh, how big, or, oh, that's big. Number 9, one of my favorite scenes is, Jake Morgan and Nico Wilder. And that was, 2018. And it was shot in Washington, D.C. for a film I did called Deep State. It's one of my favorite shoots. It's Jake Morgan's first. I found him on Redman. Saw him. I was like, you would be amazing in porn. And he said he was thinking about it and kind of edged him on. And there we go. We had a really, really good scene. It sticks out a lot because Deep State was one of these movies or one of these porn films that was supposed to be so much bigger than it was. And I shot this, and this was the first scene. And we went out that night, and I ended up getting food poisoning. So the rest of the shoots and all the B-roll and stuff, I just didn't have it in me to do it. And it sucked because I really, really wanted it to be much more, less in post and much more production and, just a whole bunch of stuff that was going on, in politics at the time. But yeah, we got some good scenes out of it. And this is, one of my favorite ones. Before we go into number 8, another question that I wanted to answer that I was asked a couple times was, how long I had worked for Dark Alley and Raw Fuck Club and what did I do? Well, I was with Dark Alley and Raw Fuck Club for about 12 years. Started out as an editor. Then I became a shooter, then a production coordinator, and then finally a producer. And then a lot of times you just do a little bit of everything, depending on the size of a company and all that stuff. So there you go. 12 years ago, and started out as an editor, went to production coordinating, shooting, and then eventually producer. The number 8 scene on my list that I love, that I think is like fucking porn magic, is Champ Robinson and Brian Bonds. We shot that in Las Vegas in 2017. It was right around the time that we were shooting Trump and Dump. So we shot this scene in about 25 minutes, and the scene was edited down to like 20 minutes. Almost every single aspect of it was usable, and it was great. It was great. You can absolutely tell that the guys are having fun. They were into it. I asked them if they needed a break. They just kept going. Another question that I was asked before was, how did I get a job in the industry? And the answer to that is a Craigslist ad. That's basically it. It just came down to a Craigslist ad. I answered it and went in for an interview, and there you go. Here we are 12 years later. So you never know. So my number 17 on the top 10 list of greatest scenes that I've ever shot for Dark Alley and Raw Fuck Club are Esteban Uribe and Dolph Dietrich. By far one of my favorite scenes because of the fact that the bottom, who was originally slated to shoot with Esteban, who like picked him out, or they picked each other out, they were very, very into it, ended up dropping out at the last minute. So I asked Dolph Dietrich, he was in the city at the time, and I asked him, would you like to do this scene? And he was very, very up for it, very into it. And it ended up being a very good scene. So definitely catch that scene. Another question I had asked was, what was the worst shoot I had ever been on? And the answer to that is probably LA Zombie. I have great memories from that project. However, the actual shooting was a nightmare. It was a lot of craziness. I don't know. It was shot out in California. It's not the same. Like almost everything was done in New York, and then we got out to California and just everything fell apart. It was very, very weird. So I don't know. I have, like I said, very fond memories of the people that I met on set there. but I just did not have a good time on the shoot. Number 16 on my list is Sean Duran and Dylan Anderson. That scene was shot for a movie called Fucking Crazy in 2016 in the studio in Fort Lauderdale. And it was the first time I was working with both models. It was inspired, believe it or not, by Terminator 2. And we shot it in a closet. They were showing me around the studio, and they were showing me what I can do and what the limits were and all that fun stuff. And they showed me this one room, and I was like, I need to shoot a scene here. And they're like, well, there. Yeah, why not? So from then on, we just decided, I went to this prop store and I got a straitjacket, and I rented it, and I think it was like $300 for the day. And it was pretty cool. It was probably the most expensive thing that we ever rented for a shoot, but it ended up looking really good. So check that out. Next question that I was asked, best shoot that I've ever been on. The answer to that is I don't know how to answer that yet, to be honest. Who knows? Maybe it'll come up at one point. The number 5 scene on my list, Rafael Carreras and Jesse Santana. It was shot in New York City. Rafael Carreras was, I think I've mentioned it before, one of the first porn models that I ever saw in a porn film and that I ever had a crush on, or that I ever jerked off to, let's be honest here. So I saw him in this film, and I forgot, it was for like a studio out of like Spain, and I love it so much I can't even remember. It was something Bound, Barcelona Bound. That's what it was called. And Rafael Carreras was absolutely gorgeous in it. And one day we got Brandon Hawk was doing casting at the time, and he was like, "Oh, Rafael Carreras wants to work with us," and I was like. So anyway, we had him shoot with Jesse Santana. Didn't really care much for Jesse Santana. Still don't. I think he. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Piss poor attitudes don't really go well with good work ethic, in my opinion. Before we go on to number 4, the next question that I had asked that I put on this list was, what was the best thing about working with Dark Alley and Raw Fuck Club? So I think honestly, one of the best things that I enjoyed about working with Owen Hawk and Matthias and everybody that came through was the fact that it was porn. However, from their earlier stuff like Gaetanimo, and they were kind of subversive, and also, well, a lot of porn is subversive. However, they were doing stuff that was satire that don't normally see in porn. Like without them, I wouldn't have been able to do a movie like Trump and Dump or Fucking Famous. And Fucking Famous, I know I've mentioned a lot, but it's one of these movies that the director's cut of it is basically a commentary on social media and the need to be liked and doing anything to be liked. And Asher Devon played that character so well. So the number 4 scene on my list of best scenes that I've ever shot has to be Tex Davidson and Adam Russo. Absolutely gorgeous scene, gorgeous models. I fell in love with Tex Davidson the minute I saw him. It was shot in LA in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, 2016. And it was my first time meeting him, and he was great, and he's been great since. So definitely catch that. I don't think I need to compliment that scene as much as the other ones. This one just really, really speaks for itself. Next question that I've been asked recently is about hangups. Do I have any hangups? Do I have any hangups about my time working with Dark Alley or Raw Fuck Club? Yes and no. I haven't really spoken about it a lot outside or in public or anything like that. The only hangups that I actually have were that I understand what needed to happen, or I kind of do, or I don't, if that makes it clearer. I just don't like, after 12 years, that it happened the way it did. I think that there was a lot of dodging and disregard, but it speaks volumes to me now. So that's basically, in a gist, what I can say about the whole situation. And if anybody wants to talk to me, they can always just call me or text me about it. Number 3, Seth Knight and Sid St. Vincent. Awesome fucking scene. It was shot in New York City, suggested by Seth. Once we got in there and we did it, it came out amazing. That was one of the scenes that was shot for Fucking Famous, and shot on an iPhone 7, I think, or something like that. It's one of the most hated and loved scenes on Raw Fuck Club, believe it or not. It started a lot of controversy, but whatever. We didn't shy away from that. We like that. Next question before we get to the number 2 scene is, what am I doing now? Wow. What am I doing now? I actually do have a couple of things. Well, aside from personal life and all that stuff, but in the porn industry or as IK Grande, I've been working on a book for the longest time. I put it on the shelf for a while because I was like, I'm going to keep doing this for a while. And then I started working on it again, little by little. And I think I'll give it about a year or so until I start like putting the finishing touches on it. So that's something that keeps me occupied. And I always have, like, while I'm on the train commuting to work, a couple of ideas of what I'm going to do with it and stuff. I'm working as a producer of porn still for Treasure Island Media now. And I have this podcast, which, if you like, please do click subscribe anywhere that you choose, or anywhere you can listen to podcasts. The number 2 scene on this list is Asher Devon and Jackson Fillmore. This was shot in Chicago, shot in a small hallway. And honestly, just if you've watched it, I remember putting the scene together, and texting these models. They came, they showed up, and as it was happening, I was like, this is going to be fucking hot. This is going to be an awesome scene. And the minute I got home, I started putting it together, and we got what we got from it. So definitely catch that trailer as well. Before we get to the last scene on my list, I think this is a question that could be asked of anybody leaving or having left somewhere. What have you taken away from working with Dark Alley and Raw Fuck Club for so long? I think when I first started working for a porn company, I was kind of like the worst porn model that you can imagine. And by that I mean, I didn't know how long it would last. I needed the money, and I had reservations about getting into it. I had a very negative perception of gay porn, yet I watched gay porn all the time. And I had a flurry of coworkers, but a good 5 that were always around, and it was always a sustainable working environment, which you can't ask for anything better. When I started casting, I didn't know how to work with models, and I was intimidated by them, but everybody I met was so cool. I've only had a couple of instances where the models were not cool, and by the time I met those models, I already knew how to act or how to approach a situation like that. Sexually, I've seen and heard almost everything legal, and I don't know. I was ignorant to many different things, but that saying, different strokes for different folks, is absolutely true. And there are a lot of freaky people out there and fetishes, and I learn more and more every single fucking day. So yeah, I can say that much about what I can take away and what I've learned. So with that being said, the number 1 scene that I've ever shot for Dark Alley and Raw Fuck Club has to be Jed Athens and Armand Rizzo. That scene is the highest rated scene on the website, and it has been since 2014, since it was shot. It was shot in Armand's apartment in San Diego. I was hungover and late for the shoot. I'm not going to lie. I lied to them that day. I was like, oh, I'm just running late. I can't find parking. And he's like, well, there's parking all over the place here. So now it all comes out. But yeah, everybody walked in, they did what they had to do, and they left, and we made an amazing scene. And that's one of those, it's one of those scenes where you kind of just know what's going to happen or what's going on, the minute you get there. That was my list of top 10 scenes that I've ever shot for Dark Alley and Raw Fuck Club. It seems like it went by so quick, but you also have to remember it was over a decade. I have very, very vivid memories of every single set that I've been on. And I can tell you a story about every single person that I've met when it comes to models like it was yesterday. And it was a lot of fun. And you have to excuse me for not having a guest this week. However, this was a very, very deep or hefty thing that I had to do. It was a very, very good way for me to kind of introduce myself for those of you who are just listening, or for those of you who don't know who I am. It was just a good way to kind of put a couple of things aside and then start focusing on the new stuff that I'm doing, because there's a lot of new stuff coming out, and I can only get better from here.
You've been watching Demystifying Gay Porn. I'm your host, Ike Grande. Demystifying Gay Porn can be found on every podcast directory as well as YouTube. Demystifying Gay Porn is on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram. If you like what you're watching and want to be a part of the process, head over to patreon.com/demystifyinggayporn, where you can help this YouTube channel and I can continue making content like this. Once again, this is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped to get off. Cheers.